these families that have 10 children, and the older ones are like, mini moms or mini dads helping with the youngest ones. So the family itself starts, helping with all the tasks. It's also the wisdom of the church that we must be open to life. Having children only when planned and programmed is a terrible idea. Responsible parenthood is a Catholic concept, but mainly means spacing births for reasons of health or extreme poverty. Generosity in generating new life is the main message of the church, the gospel, the Bible, in every age. So living life to the fullest means having the beautiful experience of bearing and educating children. Happiness is meant to be shared. And something Mother Teresa used to say, that love is the only thing that grows when given away. Babies keep you young. And older people who have no children often suffer a great deal from a lack of family and support. And our society, which has so few children, also has an incredible growth in loneliness, an incredible growth in isolation. And I saw a wonderful interview with Aaron Cariotti and another psychologist from Belgium. They were talking about how loneliness is also necessary for totalitarianism. The propaganda and the totalitarian states, whether communists or Nazis, we're always trying to isolate people and divide them from their families, divide them from others and other groups, because that isolation is what pushes towards totalitarianism. Whereas having like a healthy community, healthy families is actually very democratic and helps society. So working for an international pro-life group for over 20 years, a major part of what we were doing was fighting the population control movement. And something very interesting was that, so the population scare, right, the population control propaganda started in the 1960s. The big thing was Paul Ehrlich with his book, The Population Bomb, in 1968. And his message was, we're going to run out of food. Food production is only growing, and Thomas Malthus actually in earlier centuries said the same sort of thing, right? Population is growing, but land is not growing, and we're not going to be able to, and they didn't see the Green Revolution happening at all, right? So the new crops and everything else. And so he was making all these predictions about how we're going to have mass starvation because we just don't have enough food. So that was the message in the 1960s and 70s. But then there was a focus on depletion of natural resources. There was a group called the Club of Rome, and they were predicting we're going to hit peak oil, we're going to run out of oil, and by 1990, we're going to run out of nickel and cadmium and all these different resources. They had all these dates when we're going to run out of all these natural resources, which again, did not happen. But interestingly, did influence the Communist Party in China to do their one-child policy. They read the Club of Rome and they're like, oh my God, we got to reduce the population. And then the other thing was the Cold War. Henry Kissinger did this thing called the National Security Study Memorandum 200 in the 1970s. And it basically said we have to control the populations of poor countries or they're going to go communist. And so the U.S. needs to promote population control to prevent these countries from going in a communist direction. And then, this is probably the most ironic of all of them,